I'm Hayley Neal. I am Chief Executive of Cambridgeshire ACRE. Lisa has asked me to give you this session today just because I have been a fundraiser for nearly 20 years. No, I've been a fundraiser for over 20 years now, and just asked me to share some of the pearls of wisdom that I've come across over those last 20 years. So I have allowed some time for questions at the end, but I'm not going to be able to answer specific cases relating to your halls. I can really only talk today. I've only got the time to talk about the theory that I'll be covering. If you do need any specific follow-up or anything related to your own hall, please email me. My email address is on the last slide. So today we're going to focus on how to build a clear and achievable fundraising strategy that strengthens your building for the long term. Oh, is there somebody? We'll explore income streams, including trusts, foundations, community fundraising and support from local businesses. By the end, you'll understand the core principles of successful fundraising and have practical ideas that you can apply. I do just also want to say I can't see you because I can only see my slides, which is why we've got Lisa who can look at the questions in the chat and if anyone's got any hands up or anything like that. So let's move on to the next slide. So what does future-proofing mean? When we talk about future-proofing your community building, we're talking about building resilience, not just securing the money you need for your next project, but strengthening the building so that it can thrive long into the future. Future-proofing means having a mix of income sources so you're not overly reliant on one funder or one type of fundraising. It means having a building that is financially sustainable, well used by the community, and adaptable when needs change. It also includes thinking about long-term costs, particularly energy. Many funders now expect you to show how are you reducing running costs, improving environmental performance, or modernising your building. And finally, future-proofing is about people. Strong relationships, good communication, and involving local residents in your vision gives a solid foundation when you need support. When people care about the building, your fundraising becomes much easier. So we know that you have challenges. The biggest one for you all is volunteer capacity pressures. You've all got little time. The phrase, if you want something doing, ask a busy person, is definitely true for a community building, and we see that. But then you've got, higher running costs and tougher competition for grants as well. That's why funders expect to see clear sustainability plans and thoughtful long-term decision making and I've lost the word. Succession planning. So what do our funders want to see? When you're planning a fundraising strategy, it helps enormously to understand what funders are looking for right now. They want clear evidence of need. They don't want assumptions, but real information showing why your community needs this project. They're looking for strong governance. Funders want confidence that your committee can deliver what it's promising and manage money responsibly. Funders don't necessarily know what hallmark is, but if you had it, that might help. Sustainability is increasingly important, both environmental and financial. Funders want to see that the project will reduce long-term costs and keep the building relevant in the future. Budgets need to be realistic and well thought through, and funders expect to see genuine long-term planning behind the project. Two other points vital. One is making sure your project genuinely matches the funder's criteria. This is where I often use the phrase, don't try to force a square peg into a round hole. Funders are very clear about what they will and won't support. If your project doesn't fit, no amount of creative wording will change that. The strongest applications are always the ones that align naturally. The second point is understanding the difference between the capital and revenue funding. Do not submit bids for staff costs, activities, or ongoing expenses when the fund is very clearly for capital improvements only. Applying for the wrong type of funding undermines your credibility. Getting this right shows that you've done your homework. So overall, funders want to support projects that are well evidenced, well planned, and clearly aligned with what they're offering to fund. So one of the strongest ways to future-proof your community building is to base your project on real evidence need rather than on assumptions. Funders are increasingly clear about this. They don't want to see that the community actually wants they want to see that the community actually wants and needs what you're proposing. Understanding need can be very simple. Start by gathering evidence. This might include usage data, waiting lists, people being turned away, building surveys, or the limitations of your current facilities. Then talk to your community. This doesn't have to be a huge formal process. Do a quick, dirty online survey. Have conversations with events. Ask people to write on post-it notes as they leave. To have chats with the regular users. Email people for some feedback. Your regular hirers that come, get them just to send you an email of the problems that they have. Anything like that, that's the real soul of the project, is what gets results and can be really impactful. It might also be useful just to ask some local organisations what gaps they see. Are there activities that they can't run? Are there any accessibility barriers? Lack of warm space or a youth provision? The more voices you gather, the stronger the case. Funders don't want glossy language. They want proof your project responds to real challenges and opportunities. Consultation also builds trust. When people feel heard, they are more likely to support you financially, volunteer their time, or spread the word. So defining the need is the first practical step in developing a fundraising strategy. It creates clarity for you, confidence for funders, and long-term benefits for the building and the community. I'm just going to pause for a second there and give you two worked examples. Okay, so example one, if you were to write to a funder and say to them, we need a new roof because the builders wrote a report and told us so. Example two, the roof is so drafty that the baby group can no longer come, saying they're concerned about the welfare of the children. Which do you think the funder is more likely to go for? It will be the second one every time, because there's that bit of, yes, you could have the builder's report as well as the evidence from the group, but it's that just showing that the community want to use your room, but they can't. And that second example is from something that when I took my baby to a village hall group once, I had to leave early because she had blue lips. So, it's a real case. It works. It happens. So the next point we need to talk about is the case for support. So this is the heart of the fundraising strategy. Funders support solutions to community need, not buildings in isolation. So it's something that is short, compelling, and consistent across the whole committee. So let's just look at it. It's three main points. There's the need. You need to update the building. The solution, you're going to update the building. The outcome, you will have an updated building. So let's just look into it a little bit more. The need, making sure that everyone, internal and external, are clear about what you need the money for and why you are uniquely equipped to complete the works. What evidence do you have to support it? The solution, Include details about the project team, what exactly you are going to do, why is this the best solution, and have you considered anything else? Then there's the outcome, all the benefits that will be achieved when the project is complete, all the people who will benefit, how they will benefit, and the impacts on the wider community. So an example, Ron has been coming to this building for over 60 years. Ron is 80 and following the death of his wife, lives alone and has no family nearby. He stopped coming to the Wednesday coffee morning because we don't have the facilities he needs. The solution. So we're going to install a toilet so we have the facilities that Ron needs. The outcome. The outcome will be that Ron will return to the coffee morning to receive friendship from his community and his isolation and loneliness will be alleviated. So it's got to be more than a snappy mission statement or punchy strapline. It needs to provide a solid basis on which to communicate your need to fundraise. The case statement can then be translated into a whole series of messages to reach a variety of donors and supporters. So you have a different case for support for every corporate organisation you support, every trust or foundation, every individual. Spending time on the case for support and getting it right is priceless. It will form the basis of application forms, conversations, anything. So when you're developing your case for support, it's important to remember that funders just don't want to hear about an updated building. They want to understand that the building will make your community stronger. A really compelling case for support explains how your project will create a space that is better able to meet local needs, both now and in the future. It's about showing that the building is not simply being improved, but that it will play an even bigger role at the heart of community life. Funders respond well when they can see that a project will bring people together, reduce isolation, support well-being, and help maintain a cohesive, resilient community. They want to invest in places that people rely on and feel connected to. So when you outline the need, the solution and the outcomes, make sure you paint that wider picture. Your community building isn't just a venue, it's a catalyst for connection, belonging and resilience. Your case for support should show exactly how your project strengthens those things. So now's the time to just run through building that fundraising strategy. Things to think about in advance. Define your target. I will give you sort of a bit of background. Well, no, bit of advice. I do the budget before I start writing anything, before I look at application forms, before I do any sort of writing. I do the budget because then I know what I've got to write about. You can't do your writing and then make your budget fit. It just doesn't work. But then if you've got a huge capital project, can you break it down into small fundable elements? Let's look at the different types of income. Do we just need to go to the big capital funders? Can we also look at corporate support or community? We'll cover those later. What's the timeline? How much longer is, if you need a new kitchen, how much longer is it going to be until you really cannot go back into that kitchen or the kitchen's condemned? How long is the fundraising going to take? You need to be realistic thinking about that. And risk and resilience. What happens if you don't raise all of the money? Have you got a backup? What's your plan B? Yes, we're going to cover all of these things throughout the next hour or so. But there are 3 golden rules. And the first is be ready. Money rarely becomes available when you need it. It's available when funders want to give it, which can be at strange times, for strange amounts, and for very strange reasons. It does mean doing research in advance and knowing what your funders are likely to fund, knowing when the deadlines are, and more importantly, the time it takes them to make a decision. Don't be surprised if a project takes a year. 2 years isn't uncommon. I've been at Cambridgeshire ACRE 18 months now, And I had a text the other week to say that my job from before this has just found out that they've had a grant come through that I'd applied for. I mean, I'd forgotten I'd applied for it because it was that long ago, and I think they had too, but they were really pleased. But it isn't unheard of for 2 years or longer, because the trustees of the trusts and foundations are volunteers as well, and doing it when time allows. The second golden rule is be confident. Donors like to back winners and need to have confidence that their investment is going to be well spent. You need to have confidence in your project and discuss your excellent track record. And that could be either the project team's track record or the track record of the building. But just be warned, funders will see through hype and excuses. They want facts. Be aware of your successes since you started and match those to any concerns the funders might have. Show that you have robust policies, plans, and maintenance finance in place. Demonstrate that you are aware of the need which you're addressing by the project and any positive effects it will have. And the third golden rule is be communicative. It's a difficult word to say, but So formal applications are basically a sales document and are very difficult to communicate, but they are necessary. So look at different ways to communicate to your funder. Phone them and tell them about the cause and to expect an application. Invite them to events as guests. Show them press coverage. Include supplementary information on activities. There might be a standard application form, but that doesn't mean that you can't send appendices of all the wonderful things that you do. So, trusts and foundations. They remain the strongest source of capital income. So what you need to do is match your project with the funder priorities, which is essential for success. There are different types of funders. So there are the big national funders. There are smaller local funders. We've got ones now that are supporting energy and sustainability. But, so as a general rule, grant-making trusts and foundations follow their own direction. They have a view on what they want to achieve and how that will benefit local communities. They don't deliver work on the ground. Instead, they give grants to community groups and charities who do, reaching the people that they want to and achieving the outcomes that they're looking for. So, they will have a strategy and they will say, these are the people that we want to support. So you've got to provide the evidence that you will help them achieve it. So, applying to trusts and foundations is largely about demonstrating how your particular project can help them achieve their purpose. Trusts and foundations come in all shapes and sizes and give grants for a wide variety of causes. Some are focused on particular geographical areas, others only give to certain types of causes, or types of organisations, or a well-defined community, while others are interested in funding for a particular area of work or causes. So before we go through these ground rules, it's important to say that they apply to any kind of trust application. These were originally developed for organisations writing their own proposals, but the principles are exactly the same when you're completing a funder's application form. Whether you're writing free text or filling in boxes on a form, funders are looking for clarity, simplicity, and professionalism. These rules help you to present your project in the strongest possible way, whatever format the funder uses. They're really about helping the reader understand your project quickly and easily, which is essentially what funders are. Funders get multiple applications a day and they could be reading hundreds in one go. Let's make it easy for them. So just a quick drink break. Rule 1. Write your proposal in simple, straightforward, easy to read language. Avoid jargon. Explain professional or technical terms. Don't use acronyms and write in sort of short 15 to 17 word sentences. This makes the text easier and quicker to read. Remember how busy many funders are. We need to make it easy for them. Rule 2, use an easily reproducible font. Using a clear font makes it easy to read, and it could be that this, just make sure that when you made it in Word or whatever, if you turn it into a PDF, make sure that the font the formatting hasn't gone strange, and has stayed as it needs to. Remember that if you're using an online form, using lots of headings, they won't necessarily show up as headings. So just make sure it's really clear and that they're not struggling to understand some beautiful italic font, or you haven't put font on top of pictures that people can't read. Think about the colours. I can't see. If someone puts red font on a blue background, I can't read it. I've been known to tear pages out of magazines because of it. So just think about the reader when you're writing it. Lay it out. Rule 3, follow a logical structure. Think about a simple and easy to follow format. I'm going to soon be sharing with you 7 steps that should help. And just, take people on a journey with your words. Rule 4, follow the instructions exactly. If they tell you to write 300 words, write 250 to 300 words. Don't write 700. If they tell you to use an application form, use it. If they say they want some information in a certain way, give it to them in that way. Try to understand why they want the information like that, rather than reacting against it. I'm guilty, hands up. If I see something that says, write 3 objectives or write something like this, I say, but I've already got it in this way. Why do you want it in that way? Or why do you want this application form? I've got it in a beautiful proposal. There is a reason. They're comparing like for like with other people. So there is a reason for it. Rule 5, keep the presentation plain and practical. So back when I first started fundraising, big proposals were sent in ring binders or were sent with comb bound or anything like that. And don't do that, because actually when the funders get it, what they're likely to do is put it straight through a photocopier. And it's very annoying if you've then got to pull off the comb binding before you send it. That's not the case anymore, because nearly everything is, well, I'm not sure the last time I even saw an online, a paper-based application form. It's not unheard of, I suppose, but actually, I think the days when they ask you to send 7 copies are behind us, thankfully. But you do still need to think about that same rule when you're sending it as a PDF. Actually, if it is full colour with lots of photos, if the person who's judging it wants to print it out, then they're going to be using an awful lot of your ink, of their own ink, to do that. So just think about what the person who's reading it might want. Rule 6, make sure it's clean and professional. Now, clean is back in the day when they were printed ones. Don't put a coffee stain on it. Don't use it as a bookmark before you make sure it's not clean and tidy. It's not, now that we're not on paper copies, we're on digital ones. However, you can still make it neat and make it readable. So don't make it obvious that there is a copied and pasted section from another proposal in there. Let's make it look nice to the reader. And then, and if you have copied and pasted, make sure you read what you copied and pasted, because the last thing they want to see is another funder's name in there. And make sure that what you're copying is relevant to their needs. And rule 7, have it proofed. So I'm going to talk about AI in a few minutes, but actually in the life of AI, there is no need to have I sometimes judge applications and there are bad spelling, there are typographical errors, and some people don't, their budgets don't even add up. You're a committee running a trust, running a community building. Please make sure that everyone on that committee has read your application before you submitted it. And then perhaps go to your next door neighbour, go to your nana, someone who's got no knowledge of the project, ask them to read through it as well, just to have that really objective view. There can be some really silly things that you don't pick up on because you've seen it and you're so close to it. Now, I'm just going to quickly go through how I think, how I would structure a proposal for a trust or foundation. Now, this is if I was doing a Word proposal to turn into PDF. We know that most now have application forms. If they don't, and this is the structure I would follow if they don't have any guidance themselves. So, you know, actually, if it's just someone really that you, and I've said for a trust or foundation, but actually it could be the same for a corporate supporter or potentially even a major donor if you chose to write to them, although I would suggest that you talk to them first. So no more than 2 sides, because you can get your passion for your hall across in 2 sides if you use words carefully. So the first section is the summary, and you know, as with any sort of writing, you do this last. It needs to be about 10% of the overall word count, and it just needs to be a clear and concise statement about the main ideas that the rest of the rest of the proposal. It just, you know, makes sure that people know right there and then at the beginning what's happening. So then, you know, you can give a really good introduction of about 20%. This is the time to show off, you know, we are brilliant. We are the best organisation that there is. Here is our background information. Here is our history. Here's the successes that we've had. So then and once we've set this, you know, aren't we wonderful? Okay, let's move into the why. We've got a problem. You know, we're wonderful, but there is this problem. And this is, you know, the meaty section, about 30%. You know, what's the problem? What are people telling us? Bring in your community consultation. You know, the baby group have told us all the children are turning blue because they're cold. You know, the building contractor says that to stop the babies being blue, we need a new roof. Bring it all together. You know, you're not just asking money for the sake of it. You will use their money to the best of your ability. So then we need to go to the solution. So, you know, we know that the babies are turning blue and that there's a hole in the roof. So this is what we need to do to fix it. So again, this section is in 2 parts. There's the outcomes that you want to so there's the outcomes, the specific measurable things that you can do, but then there's the wider, there's the lovely, the benefits for the wider community. So you know, it's work that's carried out and then the benefits of it, and that's just, you know, we know there's a problem, here's how we'll fix it. And then the next section is evaluate. This is the section that most people forget to do. And that's to talk about evaluation. And it's all very well to say, we're going to do it and we're going to be the best, or this is what we need to do. How do you know that what you're going to do is going to work? Are you going to review it midpoint? What about if you've done all of these repairs, but then no one uses the building? How are you going to keep on top of it? And there are a number of ways of doing it, and there are lots of evaluation specialists out there who are able to help. Then you need to spend about 5% of your words talking about the budget. And what you're saying in your budgets really will complement 1 to 5. And if you I always attach the budget as as an appendix so that people can see you have really considered everything that's involved. Because if you undercost, you'll just lose credibility, and you know the budget section is the bit that could have you thrown out. And then the final section is future funding. So it's fine if you're going for a capital project, that's great, because you would think to yourself, well, I'm only applying for that. Once it's done, that's fine. I don't need to think about it. Yes, you do. You need to show that you have a business case that once you've got the roof, you will continue. And that you can keep going. Once that you've got the roof, people are going to continue to use the building for the next 100 years. And that's the whole trust point. So I just want to sort of cover quite briefly a little bit about corporate support. So it can be a really helpful role in your fundraising mix, even if it's not usually the largest income source. What matters is finding the right fit between your project and local business. Now, there will always be people who say to you, why don't you go to local businesses? Those businesses, that one down the road, that's making millions. That'll give you all the money you need. It might, but it probably won't. The average corporate cash donation is £4,000. Now, if you think about some of the really huge ones out there, you're more likely to get 50 quid from them because they think that'll shut you up rather than the full amount that you need. And it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you know someone in there that can warm up and talk to the right people or knows who to talk to, that's what you need to do, and how corporate will be successful. So, most companies are not motivated by charity. They want a partnership that can make sense for their staff, their reputation, and their local community presence. So when approaching a business, think about what's important to them. Is it visibility? Is it helping out the local area? Is it supporting their employees who also use the space? Or is it just demonstrating that they're a good corporate citizen? Corporate support can be much more than just a check as well. In-kind support can save you thousands. So it might be, someone gives you some materials for refurbishment or equipment or printing. It could be that someone gives you the professional advice that you need, or it could be that they give you all of their staff for 2 or 3 days with paintbrushes and paints, and they come and do the actual work for you. And just to remember, local businesses often like supporting projects that are practical, visible, and genuinely helpful to local people. A community building ticks all of those boxes, so your offer to them should be simple, clear, but a focus on mutual benefit. Where trust and foundations want you to help deliver their outcomes, actually corporates more want to get something out of them. So they want the positive PR. They want their staff to feel pleased. They want to sort of improve their reputation when they do it. It's not as philanthropic. Right. Community fundraising is a really important part of your overall strategy, but not because it will raise the bulk of your money. So community fundraising rarely brings in large sums for capital projects. Its real value lies in building ownership, involvement, and connection. When local people contribute, even in small ways, they feel part of the project. That sense of belonging is powerful, and funders look for it because it shows that your community is behind you. I want to give you a gentle warning about crowdfunding. It often sounds appealing and modern, and everyone has heard of a success from crowdfunding, but I haven't heard of one for a community building. Crowdfunding, it requires a huge amount of communication effort. It needs constant momentum and a large online following. It tends to work for something quick. And it's got its place, but in my mind, it's not for big capital projects like this. Communities that they just don't have you haven't got the digital reach needed to make it successful, and it can create a lot of stress for very little return. There are much better ways to engage your community. When thinking about community fundraising, it's also important that you understand the psychology of giving. So if you go to the community at the start of a major capital campaign and you say, we need 2 million to rebuild the hall, give us £10. They can't see the difference that £10 or £20 would make. It feels too big, it feels too abstract, too far away. If you go to them towards the end of the project and you say, we raised nearly 2 million and now we need £50 to buy a chair, this is something that they can immediately understand. They can see the impact of their gift and they're much more likely to donate. They feel they're helping to finish something meaningful. So community fundraising is less about income and more about engagement. It's confidence and visibility. It shows funders that your community cares about your project and helps to future-proof your building by long-term local support. So digital communication has become increasingly important for community buildings. People expect clear, regular updates and simple ways to donate or get involved. Digital fundraising doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as creating a QR code on your donation page, sharing updates on Facebook, or posting short videos of progress. These are easy to produce and incredibly effective. Look at your local networks. The more you share, the more momentum you're going to build. The most important thing is consistency. The projects go quiet when committees become busy, but a quiet project looks like a stalled project. Even a quick update, a photo of the hall, a quote from a user group, a reminder of why it matters keeps people engaged. Digital communication future-proofs your building by helping you reach younger residents, busy families, and people who don't attend meetings but still care about the space. AI in fundraising. Now, I just want to briefly talk about this because it is becoming a really helpful tool for small organisations with limited time. So AI can draft your case for support text, it can summarise funder guidelines, it can structure your application or even help you prepare social media posts and posters. It can help you get to the first version quickly, especially when you're staring at a blank page. But it's important to treat AI as an assistant, not as a replacement. So you still need to add the local details, you need to check the facts are correct, and you just need to make sure that it sounds human. Funders will recognise AI text. In my job now, I have to deal with recruitment. I can tell you, I can have a cover letter for a job put in front of me, and I can tell you whether that's written by hand or by AI. A funder will know exactly the same thing. So just be careful with how you use it. You can use it to analyse survey results. You pull out key themes and tidy up meeting notes, the things that can take you a huge amount of time. I'm going to give you some examples of how I use it. I can put through a complete application that I've written, and I can say to it, and I can put in the funders guidelines, and I can say, have I met this? Have I met every criteria, or do I need to strengthen something? I used to get my husband to proofread every application because I know that my spelling and grammar are appalling. AI does that for me. If I have written an answer and it's 400 words, yet I've only got space for 300 words, I'll get AI to do that and just pull out, you know, can you cut out the waffle? I always double check it to make sure that it picks out the right key points. But it's that sort of editing that can take hours. And like I said, if you are staring at a blank page, that's pretty scary, and we know that. So what you could do is you could use it. What I have done in the past is just use it as a brain dump. So, right, I know that this is the case. I've got this evidence of need, and this person's told me this, and this has happened, and it's a bit cold, and there's no hot water, but people do like a cup of tea, and we know people like a cup of tea because we made £300 at a coffee morning, and honestly, I don't even necessarily use punctuation. Everything that's going through my mind that needs to go into an application can just gets typed out, and I can spend an hour typing, just with no structure or anything, and copy all of that into AI to say, can you help me? Give me some bullet points of what. Here is the structure. Here's the application criteria. Can we turn this into a bit of an idea? And it does that. It just removes the blank page. It turns those ideas of mine into a blank page, to get rid of that blank page. But that will never be what's submitted. That's just giving me guidelines on what I then go on to produce. I know that I'm going to need some real quotes in there because quotes bring things to life. And I'm going to need statistics in there, because that shows the impact. It's there. So AI is there to lighten the load, especially when you are busy volunteer committees, but it still needs your judgment and your local knowledge. Okay. Quick breather, sorry. So to bring everything together, here's a simple six-step approach to developing a fundraising strategy that truly future-proofs your community building. Step 1 is defining the need through proper consultation. Funders want to know that this project matters to the people who use the building. Step 2, set a clear budget and identify fundable elements. Breaking a large project into smaller pieces opens doors to more funders. Step 3 is prioritising trusts and foundations. These will usually form the backbone of your fundraising, especially for capital work. Step 4 is building relationships with local businesses, not only for money, but for materials, sponsorship, publicity, and long-term partnerships. Step 5 is mobilising your community. Community support is your project's biggest asset and sends powerful signals to funders. And step 6 is use digital tools like AI to manage the workload and keep communication consistent. These tools help your fundraising more efficient, help make your fundraising more efficient and help you reach more people. If you follow these steps, you'll have a fundraising strategy that supports you now and strengthens your building for the future. So where to start looking for funding? I've just listed a few on here that they're just useful starting points. So there is Support Cambridge, Support Cambridgeshire, they've got their own funding portal. There's My Funding Central, which is a grants and social investment database. It's free for organisations under 30k. There's Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, who have, I think it's nearly 50 grants they facilitate now. District Council Community Chests grants. So most district councils have some forms of grants that they can offer out. So it's just worth approaching your district council as well. And the county council website does bring together lots of small local pots, which can sometimes be overlooked, but they can be good early on to start building momentum. Where to get advice and support. So these are just Okay, let's just emphasize here that fundraising for a community building is hard. Okay, it's absolutely normal to feel overwhelmed, but there is support available, and it's okay to reach out for help. So Cambridgeshire ACRE, we're here. We'll support you directly. If you want to talk through your project, review your case for support, or check whether a funder is a good match, just get in touch. Lisa's on the end of the phone, and if she can't support you, she'll put you through to me. We're here to help you. Support Cambridgeshire also offers advice, training, and practical tools that really help with governance or fundraising or community engagement is where they're good. Your districts and parish councils can sometimes offer some guidance and local funding advice. They know what's happening locally and can help shape your thinking. And finally, don't underestimate the support you can offer each other, and go to other community building trustees. Many of them face the same challenges, and learning from one another can make a big difference. We've got a peer mentoring scheme. Come to us, and one of our peer mentors will probably have already seen it, done it, if not for their own hall, but for a hall that they've supported. So, we're here. The key message is you don't have to do this alone. There is help, and we're here to support you every step of the way. And finally, remember that this is a journey. Future-proofing your community building is about taking steady, achievable steps. Keep your community informed, keep talking to your users, and keep building those relationships. So, I'm sorry, I'm aware of how quickly I've been talking and how much I have rushed through that. So, has anyone got any questions? Shall I stop sharing? There we go. Lisa, has there been any questions in the chat while I've been?
We haven't got anything in the chat, no.
Okay.
So just questions. It'll be questions from from everybody here.
If anyone just wants to raise their hand. Yes, Martin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your time as well and the presentation, Hayley. One question. I'm in the middle of a project at the moment, which I think requires funds to come from two different grant organisations. Never done that before. I've done quite a number of single applications. Any advice as to how I divide, if you like, the overall project into two funds? Do I do 100% into each, or do I divide? How do I divide it up?
I would phone the funders and ask them what their preference would be, and look at what is available. So, if it's £100,000 funder and both funders say my maximum limit is 50,000, then you split it 50-50. If it is, if they say that their maximum is one says its maximum is 100,000 and one says its maximum is 80. It's 20,000, then you apply to 20,000 and 80,000. It's how you do it. You also need to look at success rates of funders. So it was actually a slide, because I had to cut this a lot shorter. One of the slides I removed was looking at the number of applications you need, or the number of asks you need to make to be successful. You need to, don't be disheartened if every application that you submit isn't successful. A 25 to 30% success rate is what a professional fundraiser would go for. So, yes. It really, sorry, Martin, it really is a case-by-case basis.
Okay, if I could just add to the question, if the overall project with the two funds I'm looking at is too big for any one of them, and therefore there's a dependency between the two grant funders, is that a major problem? Or can I, if one says yes, can I hold it on with their agreement and find the replacement funds from somewhere else?
So again, look at their criteria, because some might say you need to have 50% of your income secured before you can apply to us, at which point you go to the other one first. Some you need to be concurrent. I'll give you a live example. I was working for a heritage building down in Brighton. I came along to do the Heritage Lottery Fund, when it was Heritage Lottery Fund, not National Lottery Heritage Fund. Oh, yeah, sorry, I came along and I had been told, oh, we've submitted the application for the 40% matched. Don't worry about it, they've funded us before, we're definitely going to get it. I spent 6 months developing a 500-page proposal. It was printed, it was ready to submit, and the day before I was going to do that, the committee member phoned me up in tears because this other match funding hadn't come through. And I said, I'm not submitting because you won't get your money if you haven't got your match ready to go. So just know what the criteria is. And I'm sorry, but it is very much depending on what the funders say. And funders want you to be successful. So they're happy to talk to you on the phone and answer those sorts of questions.
Hayley, oh sorry,
yes.
there's a question in the chat which I think is quite relevant. It's about local government, and is there an intelligence that you know coming from the district councils about them using their pots of money at the moment to get rid of it before the reorganisation happens? What's your intelligence around that?
Officially, I've heard nothing. Unofficially, I am very aware that one parish council, especially, one district council has said quite openly that they've got reserves that they want spent because they don't want it going to Peterborough. Sorry, didn't say that. I think keep your eye on the district councils in the next few months. It might be that suddenly pots become available, or if you have a project that you're thinking about, talk to the right people at the district, talk to the communities, talk to planning, talk to anyone that you can about your project before you start developing it, because the more people know, that money might suddenly appear. Or if then, because you don't know what conversations are going on in the local authorities as well. So if they know about your project, it could be that they decide to open up a funding pot. Okay. Robin, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for this great presentation, Hayley. It's really, really helpful. I appreciate it a great deal. Yeah, that was my question. It just seems to be a very uncertain time in terms of, big amounts of money. I mean, it's not just local government, which was my question, and thank you for that. And you do mention, well, you haven't mentioned a particular district council, which is just paying a lot of money for a crematorium that hopefully we don't really need. It's just bizarre. But others seem to be holding back and waiting and seeing. And I guess central government will make a decision soon, and we'll all know where we are. But it's also a very uncertain time for business as well, isn't it? And I just wonder, from your experience, is it becoming more challenging and difficult to actually find capital funding because of all the uncertainty, or is it still staying the same? Do you see signs of optimism that either councils or government or businesses are actually saying, yeah, it's getting better?
So within councils and businesses, I don't necessarily know. I do know that the number of philanthropic trusts and foundations have decreased significantly. So what happened is, nearly 6 years ago, all trusts and foundations stopped giving out whatever they used to give their money for because they set up COVID emergency funds. Kept me incredibly busy because I was working freelance at that time. So that was great because I could suddenly support lots of different charities because they needed that money. But they're struggling to recover and we're struggling to come back, and are using that time to say, let's close again. Let's just reflect on what's needed out there and where the need is, and then come back bigger and better. But they're struggling to come back. And if they do come back, it's not necessarily for capital. The number of, there was a couple of really huge funds last year that announced that they were closing, which is really quite scary. And because it's economic based as well, you know, their money's coming from insurance, they've all, it's the dividends on their investments. If their investments aren't making any money, then they're not making any that they can give out.
Yes.
So it's quite a wide space there. It's not a simple, you know, look at it. Yeah, you've got to look at the big wider world. And it's really tricky at the moment. There's a lot of very worried people out there.
Okay, but keep looking for the opportunities and keep going. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew.
Hi there. Good morning. Thank you very much for that presentation. It's a world I'm fairly new to. Particularly from those recent comments you've just made, and I've looked at funding of other recent new hall builds over the last 5-6 years, and a lot of them are heavily dependent on local authority grants. Is that sort of thing still likely to be available, particularly in Peterborough? Because I'm getting the impression that in Peterborough, that's going to be sort of nigh on impossible unless you've got certain demographic sort of characteristics in your neighbourhood.
Okay, the way the local authority, the way local government reorganisation is happening means that actually money is going to be moving away from the districts, and it's going to be going to the combined authority. That depends on the views of the elected mayor. At the moment, we have an elected mayor who is who is anti giving grants out for certain things. Now, I mean, that's only rumours that I've heard, but I have seen evidence that I know one particular grant scheme won't be going ahead because he doesn't like it. So, you know, it depends on the politics as well.
It's not a straightforward process.
No.
And it seems more uncertain than it would have been 10 years ago.
Yes.
But it makes things very difficult, doesn't it?
It does. And I have to, you know, I've not done any work in Peterborough for a community building, so this isn't where my area of expertise lie. If you've got a sort of Peterborough specific question, I would go to PCVS because the team there will know more what's happening on the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? No? Okay. Well, let me just share my screen again. Is that working? There we go. So those are my contact details should you wish to get in contact with me. You know, so just, yes, thank you very much for your time today and for everything that you're doing for your community building. You know, if you're here, if you need any support, we're here for you. Please do reach out, and we will do our best. And good luck, I think, is the biggest thing. Okay.
We'll keep in touch.